I'm back, and you know what that means. Roll the sizzle! What is going on, guys? I am Kaiju Carl, back finally for something a lot of you guys have been asking for, and that is why Kamen Rider Buffa Part 2. With the first part, we ended around the time Buffa was gonna get the twin command form, and I got really excited to see him use Jet and Cannon together. And he never used Cannon. While this moment was very cool, he does ridiculous Buffa things, similar to like when he uses the water gun. He uses the jet and the sword in the most ridiculous way possible, to the extent of where he even powers himself up by hitting himself. And if that's not the most Buffa energy I've ever seen in my life, I don't know what is. I mentioned in the first video how you can kind of see his wavering convictions when it comes to what he's doing, his guilt in the actions he's committing. And I think this chunk really shows how strong-headed he is to having a means to an end. Michinaga knows he's not doing good things. He's doing downright evil things. But for him, he justifies it in that he's trying to eliminate the DGP and riders, and in so, resurrects all the riders that have lost their lives up until this point. Michinaga really turns into a very altruistic character throughout the rest of the series, and it really solidified my love for him. We see Michinaga deal with an interesting little problem. One of the Jamato has taken the face of his friend who was murdered when he first entered the DGP. And this seems to mess with Michinaga at first, but very quickly he shows that he's not as easily manipulated as one would think. Yes, he's very bullheaded, but he also has a good head on his shoulders. And I think a lot of that strength does come from his conviction to save people. Michinaga can come across as a bad guy, but I really do think he is one of the better characters in this show. While we continue in this game, it ends up leading to one of the best fights in this series. We find out that Bariba needs both Glare and Gazer's drivers to see the Goddess of Desire and get her goals fulfilled. So, a fight ensues between Michinaga and Ace for one of these vision drivers, and it is phenomenal. The choreography is the best I've ever seen in Kamen Rider, to be honest. I think choreography should be more than just fancy punches, fancy kicks. You should be able to see a person's personality in the way that they fight and the way that they do things. And we've seen how both of these characters fight very much until this point, and watching their two styles clash from a more melee focused that Buffa is versus Ace's more dexterity range tactics is amazing. And on top of that, you see both of their personalities come through in the way that Buffa is extremely stubborn and at one point just uses his head to throw Ace around, or Ace using deceptive tactics to roll to his gun and start shooting back. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm a little upset more people aren't talking about how great this single fight is. I think it is quite literally the single best fight in all of Reiwa up until this point. And it really shows that though these two characters are at odds, they can still create amazing chemistry. This is both of their convictions coming to a head, and these waves are crashing into each other. And what this means is the future of the DGP, the future of riders. You have Ace trying to recreate and find out what happened to his mom, while you have Buffa trying to save riders by destroying all of them. It adds a level of tension that just isn't in a lot of these other fights. It feels like a final battle. And we come to learn that it's far from that. While Michinaga is seemingly playing into the hands of the Jamato, Ace is making headway in taking down the DGP. He even crescendos in his own story to fighting Gazer himself, after working with him tirelessly against the Jamato throughout the JGP. Ace feels the need to get the belts for himself. In this game, holes will randomly open based on the color, and if you fall through that hole, you are eliminated, destroyed, turned to energy, and given to the goddess of desire as bubbles. So as these two fight, people are falling, holes are opening around them, and they do this crazy falling down a shaft using Gazer's platform and Geats just doing all kinds of nonsense. And who intervenes but Michinaga himself, with quite possibly the coolest random power that came out of nowhere in the zombie hands to stand power slap everyone out of the way and take victory. And with that, Buffa claims the Jamato Grand Prix and becomes the Jamaity, having his wish granted finally of the power to defeat all riders. And it's here where we have the biggest power fantasy I have seen since Goku goes Super Saiyan. In Michinaga's new world, we are greeted to him in the Jamaity form, a upgraded fever buckle that gives him new horns and a cape. I really do love the helmet and the changes that it made. I think the gold horns look phenomenal. I, like most of the capes in Kamen Rider, hate this thing. It always feels like the flimsiest little material that just, oh, it's so bad. To me, they look like the plastic table covers you get at the dollar store. And it bugs me so much. I think this form would look so much better with the new helmet and just the double zombie going on, or maybe a little bit of a color variant. I'm okay with the reuse of buckles. I understand that while Michinaga is, for true, the secondary, Toei doesn't want to acknowledge it. So we'll delegate him to getting a not real power-up because they realize that a new power-up would be too powerful for now. But with this new power, Michinaga proceeds to steamroll every rider he comes across. And it is an ass-whooping of epic proportions. Among these victims that Michinaga fights are a weird basset hound-headed goofball, a couple of the riders we have seen who have survived, and the heroes of the fan base outside of Japan, Ben and John, finally get their moment. Until they don't. We don't even get to see them henshin. They do the pose, and it is quite literally over in a flash. But Michinaga goes around crushing all of these ID cores so that they do not have the memories of the DGP. Once Michinaga finds his way to Chirami, we are given a wild moment. Sumori is able to tap into her Goddess of Desire powers and resurrect Ace in a nothing short of expected and weirdly breathtaking moment. Even though Michinaga is nigh unstoppable against riders at this point, he does give his friends some leeway. Nago and Tycoon have been through a lot with him, and he offers to target the other riders before them. He even goes as far to help thwart a plan that the biggest dickhead in the show, Daiichi, sets up. And I love him for it. I think Daiichi is a stain on this show, and he really ends up taking away a lot of the fire that Michinaga could have had. Michinaga tends to see his casualties as a necessary sacrifice. I've mentioned this a few times to this point, and I think it really shows his good nature, as I had mentioned, by even giving Nago and Tycoon and Sarah a chance to find things their own way. I think at this point, a lot of people can see Michinaga as just an antagonistic writer. I see a guy who's broken, lost, trying to do things right in a world that has done everything wrong to him. And these people that he's formed bonds with are the only things he's found joy in a very, very long time. This Rider game comes to a head when Michinaga and Ace are forced to fight Archimedes, who has been consumed by a powerful ancient Jamato. And this again is a fight similar to their previous that is quite fantastic in a different way. This is the ultimate bro fight. Short of actually fist bumping, these two team up in some of the coolest tactics I have seen that two riders can do, including a moment where Ace kicks off of Buffa's shield to hit Archimedes. And I don't have words for the feeling that gives me. This game is eventually ended by Ace when he becomes the deity and thwarts the end game. This results in him getting Geats 9 and resetting the world once again. I also want to take a moment, because I know a lot of people would comment if I didn't, on the reveal of Geats 9. I mean, what can I say about this form and this intro that hasn't been said already?
Highlight time, Carl.
Henshin.
3. So, who is Ace Ukyo? The closest description I can come up with is he's the next Tendo Soji. Too cool, arrogant in any danger, but deep down, there's a heart of gold. Let me give you an example of how cunning and clever Ace is. We come to learn that the DGP repeats. It's a cycle. It's been doing it. And Ace has won multiple times. And in those events, he has won enough times to have the foresight to prepare something for him if he ever needed it. Down the road, when he won again. What's that? Oh yeah, Mark II. I need you to follow me on this, okay? He won so many times, and he knew that eventually he's gonna need an ace up his sleeve, so to speak. And that ace is a power-up that he gives to himself generations down the line. Let me tell you about episode 38. Let me tell you about what that did to me as a Kamen Rider fan. The fulfillment of Ace's character coming to fruition in terms of his power. Not only did that demonstrate that this Ace is so beyond any measure, reality itself bends to him. And this form, look at the beauty of the completion that is Mark 9. The beginning base form, flying back to when I hated this design, to looking at this masterpiece, this genius of brilliance. I can't stress to you how happy I am to have been wrong on my impression. Mark 9 embodies Ace's power, strength, and sheer coolness. Okay? Just too damn cool. Ace as a character won me over due to his intelligence and cunning and willingness to do everything he can to solve not only his own problem, because by the time he figures that out, he's got the world to save. And he does. But it's the dynamic in which he has joined the characters around him together. He is the main character, but upheld by the efforts of his friends, upheld by the stories that are solved and revolve around him. I don't want to give too many spoilers because I really encourage you guys to watch the show. Not only for your boy Buffa, but for Ace's story, Ace's completion. Everything that has to do with Ace solidifies him as the main character and the highlight of the Reiwa era. Okay, now then, back to your regularly scheduled Buffa.
Let's talk about the ending of Geats. As we get into Ace's DGP, Daiichi returns, and this is where I think this show starts to lose its way a little. Daiichi comes back as a final villain of sorts, and that's fine. He introduces a new type of Jamato that is parasitic and is able to infect humans to create more Jamato. Ace slowly recruits his friends back into the DGP, but only if they want to. He does not force it onto anyone, and Buffa decides to help. He does want to rid the world of the Jamato and the threat of the Jamato. So, henching to fight the Jamato before him, he strikes a final blow, only for that Jamato to reverse to Sarah, Keiwa's sister, and he kills her. This event sends Keiwa into a spiral that many people did not like. If they did like it, there's things that could have easily been changed. If they didn't like it, they felt it was forced and thought they just wanted another antagonistic rider. But you have to remember through this whole thing, Keiwa is dealing with the loss of the last person and the last family even that he has. Of course he's gonna do radical things and make rash decisions that can seem off the cusp and out of character. I know I would. If something ever happened to my partner, I genuinely don't know how I would react. It would probably be lashing out, very similar to Keiwa. And the target for this lashing is none other than Michinaga himself, the one who struck the final blow. And if Michinaga wasn't feeling guilt before, this event where he murders the sister of someone he's come to respect eats away at him. It is almost heartbreaking to watch him try and deal with this, and because he's so strong in his convictions to save people, you see Michinaga do almost mental gymnastics to justify it. He feels that the only way to save these people might be to kill them. And everyone knows that's not the correct way. Even Michinaga, who pleads with Keiwa multiple times to forgive him and help him, to no avail. Keiwa's ears are closed. He is on a war path to fix the problem and right his own wrongs, going to even resetting the world twice to try and save his family. And much like the threads of fate, events unwind in the same way. His family always dies no matter what he does. And that's one of the saddest things in this show, honestly. Michinaga's guilt is rectified in his mind by using this tree of knowledge that they happen to find. It is holding the memories of everyone the Jamato consume and use as soil, and Bariba wants to use this to superpower herself So Baruba and Buffa have one final conflict that is not good. Considering the last two major conflicts, or three even, that Buffa has had have been phenomenal. This is a man running in an explosion field with a large CG bull firing at him. It's just not great. It also begs to question, why doesn't he just use the Jamaeity form when Baruba is a rider? I know plot and stakes and things of that nature. We do see a moment of it when he does the final kick, but it was a little bit of a flat note on an otherwise fantastic story up until this point. But Michinaga takes the blame because of it. He has a revelation that he needs to accept that it's his fault for what happens, and Keiwa and Michinaga make amends equally unsatisfactorily, in my opinion. It's a very quick moment where they fist bump, basically, and that's it. I have to also mention, in the midst of all this, Nago receives her fantasy buckle, and this might be one of my favorite forms in the whole series. Honestly, I love the journey Nago went on, and she might have to get her own video herself. I genuinely love this design. I love that Time Fire is her dad, and I love his form of it as well, even if it is just a Seeker helmet repaint. But within all of this, she gets one of the coolest forms in the show. And it's only one half of a buckle. It's not even a full buckle. And this is really the last major moments we see of Michinaga for the rest of the show. And we really don't see a whole lot of him until the final fight with Suel. The three side characters team up to do some really badass moments of Keiwa charging Buffa's sword and just all kinds of nonsense that is, you gotta watch it, it's so cool. And once Geats finally ends, I felt a emptiness. The character that I assumed was the secondary for the entire show because he acted like a secondary, I come to find out is the quaternary. He's the fourth rider in the lineup, and we had a tease of Buffa Mao. Week to week, I wait with bated breath for the preview to show me Buffa Mao, and I get nothing. Until the trailer for his Visa Next comes out. And we are treated with the sickest form in all of Geats. Plosion Rage Buffa. This belt comes together with the two hands, it separates and comes up when he's activated. It is clearly a repaint of other pieces, including the Jamaeity helmet. I believe it is the monster legs. And then we also use Game Diaz's shield with new fucking chainsaw fingers. If you don't think that is cool, why are you here? Needless to say, I am very, very, very excited for this movie because we finally get to see Michinaga's final form. Whether the movie will be good or not, I don't really care. I'm just excited to see this thing in action and moving around. I immediately pre-ordered it the minute it was available, and yeah. That pretty much does it for this video. I want to thank you guys so much for once again listening to the rantings of an insane person who just wants to be a buffalo. I'm Kaiju Carl. You guys can follow me on all the social medias at Kaiju Carl. I stream over on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Sundays, twitch.tv/Kaiju Carl, where we're usually talking about video games and Toku at the same time and trying to interweave the two. I love Buffa.